For decades, countless people vanished without a trace, leaving behind broken families, unanswered questions, and haunting mysteries. Some were children who never came home from school. Others were adults who stepped out one day and were never seen again. Police searched, posters were printed, and hope slowly faded as the years passed. These cases became cold, buried deep in forgotten files, but time does not erase the truth. With new technology, fresh investigations, and shocking confessions, some of these missing persons cases were finally solved in the most unexpected ways. These are the stories of missing people whose cold cases ended in shocking discoveries. In 2001, 8-year-old Daniel Morecambe disappeared from a bus stop in Australia. For years, his parents lived in agony, not knowing what had happened to their son. The case went cold, and no suspect was ever arrested. In 2011, police used a secretly planted recording device in a suspect's car. The man, Brett Cowan, confessed to abducting and killing Daniel. He led police to the child's remains. After 10 long years, the truth finally came out, ending one of Australia's most heartbreaking missing persons cases. In 1990, 21-year-old college student Kristen Smart vanished after attending a party in California. For more than 2 decades, her family searched for answers. The main suspect was questioned but never charged. The case went cold as evidence slowly disappeared. In 2021, new forensic searches uncovered buried evidence under the suspect's home. He was finally arrested and convicted. After 30 years of silence, Kristen's family finally learned what had happened to their daughter. In 1974, 16-year-old Arliss Perry was found murdered inside a church at Stanford University. For decades, her husband and family lived with unanswered questions. The killer vanished, and the case went cold. In 2018, new DNA testing finally revealed the murderer, a former campus security guard who had died years earlier. After more than 40 years, the shocking truth came out about who had taken Arliss's life. In 1988, 8-year-old April Tinsley disappeared while walking home from school in Indiana. Her body was later found, but her killer remained unknown. The case haunted the town for decades. In 2018, police tested DNA from a letter the killer had once sent to authorities. The DNA led them to John D. Miller, a man who had lived quietly in the same community all along. He confessed. After 30 years, April's family finally received justice. In 1992, Patricia Otto vanished in Wisconsin. There were no clues, no witnesses, and no answers. Her family believed she had disappeared forever. For nearly 30 years, the case remained unsolved. In 2021, investigators tested DNA found on old evidence and matched it to a former co-worker. He confessed to killing Patricia and hiding her body. Her remains were finally recovered. After 3 decades of silence, her family finally had a place to mourn her properly. In 1979, a young woman's body was found on the side of a road in Texas. She had no identification and no missing person report. For decades, she was known only as Orange Socks. No one knew her real name or where she came from. In 2019, genetic genealogy finally revealed her identity as Deborah Sue Jackson. The shocking discovery was that she had run away from home as a teenager and had been missing for 40 years. Although her killer was already dead, her family finally learned what had happened to her. In 1965, Mary Shotwell Little disappeared after a night out with friends in Georgia. At first, police believed she had run away. Later, her burned car was found, proving something terrible had happened. For more than 50 years, her case remained cold. In 2018, investigators reviewed old evidence and identified a former co-worker as the main suspect. Although he had already died, the shocking truth about Mary's fate finally came out after more than half a century. In 2009, Susan Powell disappeared from her home in Utah. Her husband claimed she had left in the middle of the night. Police suspected him, but they never found her body. The case shocked the nation. Years later, new forensic evidence confirmed that her husband had murdered her. Although her remains have never been found, investigators officially closed the case. The shocking discovery was that the truth had been hiding in plain sight for years. In 1997, teenager Sabrina Eisenberg vanished from her bedroom in Florida. Her parents were accused, but there was no evidence. The case went cold and suspicion destroyed the family's life. Years later, new investigations proved her parents were innocent. Although Sabrina has never been found, the shocking discovery was that the original investigation had been deeply flawed, leaving a family wrongly blamed for decades. In 1984, 9-year-old Christine Jessup was murdered in Canada, and an innocent man was wrongly convicted. Years later, DNA testing cleared his name. In 2020, investigators finally identified the real killer using preserved biological evidence. The shocking discovery was that justice had failed twice, once by convicting an innocent man and again by letting the real killer walk free for decades. In 1957, the body of a young boy was found in a box in Philadelphia. No one knew his name or his family. For 64 years, he was known only as the boy in the box. In 2022, genetic genealogy finally identified him as Joseph Augustus Sorelli. The shocking discovery was not just his identity, but the fact that his family had lived nearby all along. Although his killer remains unknown, the child finally got his name back after more than 6 decades. In 1971, college student Rita Curran was murdered in Vermont, and her killer vanished without a trace. For 52 years, her family waited for answers. In 2023, detectives used DNA genealogy to test preserved evidence from the crime scene. The DNA led to a man who had already died years earlier. The shocking discovery was that the killer had been identified, even though he could never face justice in court. These missing persons cold cases prove that disappearance does not mean the end of the story. Sometimes the truth is buried in the ground. Sometimes it is hidden in old evidence. Sometimes it lives quietly in a neighbor's house. And sometimes it waits decades for technology to catch up. Behind every solved missing persons case is a story of heartbreak, patience, and hope. Families who never stop searching. Detectives who refuse to give up. Scientists who push technology forward. Justice may arrive slowly, but when it does, it changes everything. Some missing people were found alive. Others were found as remains, and some were never physically found at all. But every solved case brings answers, closure, and a powerful reminder that no one is ever truly forgotten. These stories are not just about crime, they are about memory, about refusing to forget the missing, about proving that every life matters even decades later. When a cold case is solved, it is not just a legal victory, it is a human victory for every family that waited in silence for the truth. As we come to the end of today's journey, take a moment to think about the people behind these stories. They were not just names on missing posters. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and parents who vanished one day and never came home. For decades, their families lived with questions that had no answers, waking up every day hoping that someone, somewhere, would finally uncover the truth. These cases remind us that justice is not always fast, and it is rarely easy. Sometimes it takes 10 years. Sometimes it takes 30. Sometimes it takes 50. But the truth has a way of surviving. A single drop of blood, a forgotten fingerprint, an old letter, or a new technology can suddenly bring light into the darkest places. What once seemed impossible becomes real, and silence finally turns into answers. To every investigator who refused to give up, to every scientist who pushed technology forward, and to every family who never stopped believing, these victories belong to you. Because of your strength and patience, secrets were finally exposed and the missing were finally heard. If these stories moved you, remember that there are still thousands of missing persons cold cases waiting for their moment of truth. Somewhere, another family is still waiting for closure, still hoping that one day the phone will ring with the words they have dreamed of hearing for years. We found them. Thank you for spending this time with us and honoring the memories of those who were lost. If you believe in justice and in the power of truth, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. For more real stories that prove one powerful message, no matter how long it takes, the truth never truly disappears.